Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to season number 3 of the Rumble Mumble, presented by Fatheads Eyewear. We're beginning our weekly Thursday night shows as we lead up to what is highly anticipated, the Rumble in Fort Wayne coming up. We do want to give out, before we go any further, a big shout out to Kurt Brockman, who 3 years ago we ran a contest to come up with the name, and some great responses, and Kurt's idea of Rumble Mumble won out, so now it's officially the Rumble Mumble.
It won and it stick, and I'm just as excited to get it going again this year for a few reasons. One, I just genuinely like going around and talking to all these different personalities of the Rumble. It's kind of like our annual countdown to the Rumble that we're kicking off again. And second, obviously last year, unfortunately we didn't get to run due to the pandemic, so I'm excited to, it's looking promising this year, so I'm excited to get back indoors.
I think everybody is, and it was truly a big disappointment last year, and but it was, everybody knows, totally out of our hand, and we waited. You know, we're going to go through the invitational status. We had everything going, and finally the health department said no. So let's hope that everybody gets through with their vaccinations and everything, and that the numbers a little bit shaky right now. We're concerned. I'd be lying if I told you we weren't a little bit nervous, but right now it's all systems go, and I know hundreds, make that thousands of people are marking down December 17th and 18th, getting ready for the Rumble in Fort Wayne.
Exactly, and when we get there, you know, we're coming back with our all-star lineup of midgets, wing, non-wing 600s, carts, quarter midgets, and it's really 2 full days of racing. You know, as soon as you get in the door, the green flag drops. It's all night, all day racing, and you know, fans, drivers, everyone, you know, mark your calendars. December 17th, December 18th, we'll be back.
Yeah, inside those walls, it's truly a rumble. I don't think when Tony Barhorse put this together, he could have come up with a better name than Rumble.
It's very fitting.
And since we announced the dates, there's been some flutter out there about people concerned about, oh, it's earlier this year. Well, that's kind of how it works every 6 years or so, the way the calendar moves and the Christmas falls like on a weekend. It's pretty hard to go up against Christmas. So next year, 2022, we'll be back on our traditional weekend, which falls between Christmas and New Year's. So this year, we're just saying, get the Christmas shopping done early, get the parties out of the way, and have your Christmas time a week early at the Rumble in Fort Wayne. But let's talk a little bit about the event. As we said, we're sticking to our usual format. The entry blanks are out. The entries are coming in, some new names coming in, and we're going to have, like we said, the combination of the midgets. It's a unique format put together where we have the national midgets, the regional midgets, the Kenyans and focuses all running together, winged and non-winged 600s. The quarter midgets are out. The only one we're a little bit skeptical on trying to get done right now is the go-kart class, because just the evolution of go-kart racing, just new engine packages, a lot of different things on the go-karts. It's just hard to pinpoint down exactly what we're going to run, but we do know the Clone Heavy class will be running, and John Limbacher Memorial will be coming back. 2,000 win for the Clone Heavies on Saturday night, December 18th. And neat thing about that, there's not been a repeat winner yet. It was introduced in 2017. Jake Shelley won that year, then Dustin Heath the following year, and the most recent winner was Philip Schneider. Yeah, and I'm a little biased, I'm not gonna lie. I came from go-karts, but I think that's one of the best races all weekend every year is that John Limbacher Memorial race. And honestly, sometimes, you know, when the track gets a little rubbered up, they're going faster than the midgets too. Yeah, but, they do, and it's neat to look down at the midget pit and see all those guys looking out over watching the go-karts.
That's awesome. But as you said, you know, the entries have already started piling in, and you know, as we get closer, we're going to put those on entry list out on our socials, on the websites. We're going to put those on the screen right now. And honestly, guys, you know, as we said before, you know, thank you for all the support. But you know, every like, every share, every comment, you know, that helps us out tremendously. So keep doing that. We thank you guys for that. And going forward, you know, we'll keep pushing out stuff and looking forward.
Especially the YouTube channel now is up and running, and all of our Rumble Mumble. Well, that's a tongue twister. The Rumble Mumble broadcasts are up on the YouTube channel, so check that out.
Yeah, that was our big project this off-season, indoor off-season, is getting all of those archived. Every previous Rumble that we've ever done is on our YouTube now, so go check those out.
You know, going back to the go-karts, one thing I did want to bring out, we wanted to announce tonight, some new additions to that. And we're getting really close. And I think you're going to see some different divisions added in as if we have the time, but we're looking forward to that. And not to worry, go-karts aren't going away. We're just going to add a few new things to it. So definitely keep an eye on all the social media.
I'm pretty excited for that. And this year, the Racers Rate hotels will be the Holiday Inn, located directly across the street from the Coliseum, and the Sonesta Select Hotel, which was formerly known as the Hyatt Place. Both are great locations. The Holiday Inn rate is $95 per night, while the Sonesta Select rate is $75 per night. And that one also includes breakfast.
Right. What makes them a little bit different, the Holiday Inn right across the street, which we do want to let you know ahead of time that the parking at the Coliseum has gone from $6 a day to $8 a day just due to the increased expenses that they have. So the Holiday Inn, you can walk literally right across the street, and they have a swimming pool, where the Sonesta, a little bit more quiet, beautiful rooms, well laid out rooms, but you get the full breakfast with that. And just stay tuned on social media, because we have some exciting news about the Holiday Inn coming up.
Yeah.
So those rates, the links are on the website. And they'll be up. Take a look at those. They're only good until December 4th. So make your plans and get those racer rates while they last until December 4th.
Yep.
Okay, well, before we introduce our special guest tonight on the Rumble Mumble season number 3, we want to give a big shout out to Jason Dietz Trailer Sales in Edgerton, Ohio, who's come back one more time as our presenting sponsor. So, teams, I don't need to tell you anything about Jason Dietz Trailer Sales that you don't already know. The proud supporters of racing, a huge lot of inventory up there that you need to look at. So, thank you, Jason Dietz, and then, of course, thank you.
Yeah.
Who else? Rico,
Carl Prentice, everybody at Fatheads Eyewear. They really helped us step up our game last year with the Rumble Mumble, and now we're back for season 3.
In their great studio. But as you noticed, we're not in the Fathead studio tonight. So as luck would have it, or not have it, health issues and scheduling issues have prevented us from going to Fatheads Eyewear tonight. So we're opening up here. We're still in Indianapolis, maybe about a mile away, and we're at the Indy Screen Print, and they are the producers of the official Rumble and Fort Wayne apparel. So we want to thank Bob and Tom Beaudry for making their facility available to us here on such a short notice. Okay, so without further ado, let's move on and introduce tonight's special guest. On June 11th, 2021 at 3:46 p.m., a tweet came out that shocked the racing world. The opening lines had people in unexpected awe. It goes, "After 20 consecutive years of being a race car driver, I had to make the difficult decision to step away from driving duties over the last couple weeks. Coming to terms with this reality was excruciating and was not taken lightly." So tonight we have with us the man that put out that tweet, and we'd like to welcome and introduce to you our 2016 Rumble in Fort Wayne Midget winner, Kyle Hamilton. Kyle, step on in.
Good to be back with you.
Kyle, thanks for joining us tonight. Larry brought up your tweet, and I hate to admit it, back in June when that got posted, I and I think a lot of other people were kind of a little shocked by that. But it's kind of cool you did it on your own terms in a professional manner, and I think you still have a lot of the support from the racing world behind you. So welcome to the Rumble Mumble, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's going to be weird not driving this year, but like you said, it is a tough decision, but one, deep down I knew that I needed to make, and being able to live with that and is helping me enjoy post racing a lot more, knowing that I kind of had to admit it before it was too late, or before I stepped on toes I shouldn't have. So
yeah, it was interesting that you put that together, and it was a shock. I don't know how many people maybe you even discussed it with, but since then you've had a lot of interviews with a lot of different media members, and they talked about that, and we're proud of you. But what we want to know more tonight, and what we want to talk about, is Kyle Hamilton and the Rumble in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
So before we go into the now and the future, let's just kind of look back at some of your stats here, especially in the midget class.
Yeah, we have some official stats from our statistician, Bob Corson, here. Just from 26 midget appearances, we have 18 feature starts. You've appeared in 13 of the last 15 Rumbles, and you only missed 2009, 2015. Feature win, obviously, in 2016, 3 top 5s, 8 top 10s, 8 heat race wins, and 5 B main wins. I know you led some laps last year, too. Kind of speak on that and how you've been able to see so much success at the Rumble.
I mean, starting early was a big help. Larry mentioned it earlier that you could race a Kenyan midget with the open midgets in the Rumble, and at the time, I was able to start running the Rumble as soon as I turned 13. I turned 13 earlier in the summer, and I was able to jump in there in 05 and get some laps. I didn't make the race either time that year, but it was an early experience of getting me out on that track, out with the bigger name drivers, and starting that early. Obviously, it kind of became a family tradition because there isn't a lot of other pavement racing going on that time of year, obviously. And then it was just kind of a marquee event. Every time I raced, I loved going to events that you could tell where it was an actual event. It didn't feel like it was just a weekly race. When you showed up to the Rumble, it was like, multiple people knew it as the Rumble. It had a name. It had, drivers you could expect to be there, fans you'd see every year that supported you throughout the year, but specifically want to see you come run at the Rumble. And that was a big motivating factor in keeping me coming back. And then obviously, early on, driving for my dad, we put together some good cars together. My dad, Jim Reeder, a lot of family members worked hard at getting me good cars, and then was able to land the ride with Don Kenyon, later in my Rumble career. We ran probably 4 or 5 years together, and the right cars in there helps you run up front. I mean, there's no secret to that. You got some good wrenches behind you. You put together, some stats like that. And
now, prior to the midgets, had you done any of your quarter midget racing there at the Rumble?
Yeah, I raced 1 year in the quarter midget division. I think it was the first time I ever flipped, ever. And so my mom wasn't too excited about going back there, but my dad always liked it. My dad actually ran a legend car there way back in the day. And so he was always trying to get us, to go to the Rumble in whatever capacity. Flip the quarter midget, so we didn't go back in the quarter midget, but as soon as I was old enough to run the midget, we got it out.
The thing about the quarter midgets, Kyle and I were talking about that on the way down here tonight. The numbers in those classes are growing, but the early years of the quarter midget racing was so intimidating to the guys, and it was hard to get them to go there because the track was twice as big as a normal club track. The racing was so much faster, and the flipping was contagious because it seemed like the kids would come out of the turn and I don't know if they forgot they had a brake or what, and they'd see that wall coming, and next thing you know, boom, quarter midget up over on its side. And luckily nobody really ever got hurt, but I'm sure a lot of moms were scared.
Oh yeah, with those 4-cycle motors, I mean, if you lift off the throttle, you're gonna lose a ton of momentum, and so even at a young age, kids understand, like, if I bail from the throttle here, probably going for the win is out of the question. So they'd hang in the throttle just a couple of seconds too long and end up on their lid.
So do you think running that 1 year in a quarter midget there, did that really help you in the midgets, or does not much translate?
Like, to say it was a major help would probably be a bit over exaggerated, but there is nothing like the surface of the Rumble track compared to everywhere else you go. You pull out onto, let's say Anderson Speedway, Raceway Park, dirt track even. There's really, like, in most modern midgets, you can kind of turn the wheel fairly easy and kind of take the car where you want to go depending on how much stagger you go. But I remember specifically in the core midget when I got out there, and then more in the midgets, as soon as you pull out onto the track, I mean, it's very hard to turn anywhere when you're not up to speed. I mean, the car does not want to do what you want it to do. It's kind of just following the rubber, and I remember feeling that in the quarter midget when I first pulled out on the track. Like, I was like, if things weren't going perfect, like, I don't know if I can physically get the wheel to rotate, and I remember that just being a totally different experience. And like, if you could feel that between a go-kart, a quarter midget before you get out there in the midget, there's definitely something to learn from that.
And I think this is where we need to interject what it is that Kyle's referring to, is that the Rumble, it's built inside of an expo center, just a bare concrete floor, but to make the track surface, we use Coca-Cola syrup and a little bit of rosin, and as the day goes on, the rubber builds up onto the Coke syrup, and literally the tires are like almost like plungers. You're like suctioned right to the track. And I know that the quarter midgets have handlers that have to push them off because of the way that they get fired up. And we try to tell the young kids, if you stop, pull off of the rubber, but they don't. And so these guys are trying to push, and it's like twice as hard, and it makes it extremely rough. But we don't want to dwell a whole lot on the quarter midgets, but it is so neat to see what the quarter midgets do as far as producing future drivers.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you can put a long list of guys that are racing at the top level right now that started in quarter midgets. A lot of them at the Rumble have made starts at the Rumble. So definitely a long lineage of drivers coming from that division.
So again, we have Kyle Hamilton here, recently retired from auto racing, 2016 winner of the Rumble in Fort Wayne in the midget class, and we're here tonight to talk about that. And so Kyle, look back over those 26 midget appearances, and what do you think stands out the most?
Really, like, as far as the Rumble event itself, is not very many experiences on the track stand out as many as the memories that I made just being around the event, because it's a once-a-year deal. It's over the holidays. You see a lot of people at that one event every year. That might be the only time you see a crew worker for another team, a driver on another team that races in another discipline. And the moments that stand out to me are a lot of the moments, early in the day when you're waiting to go out for for midget practice, when some of the other divisions are out there, watching those guys, hanging with your buddies. I've teammates with my brother a lot of years, and we grew up going to the Rumble. So those memories of watching the earlier divisions and then getting our own cars dialed in. Obviously, I have a lot of on the track memories. I mean, the win was really a big relief for me that year, just because it seemed like I had some really good cars over the years that just wasn't able to, jump that hoop and put it in victory lane. That was obviously a big memory, but there's a lot of other like small memories that that kind of like that one year at the Rumble. Remember, I went around the outside, or just the last Rumble that we ran. I felt like it was one of my better driving experiences in any race, but definitely at the Rumble, because I led for a long time, but everybody knows when you're out front leading, you're actually a sitting duck at times, just because you might think you're running away with it. You might not know what's going on behind you. And Justin Peck pretty much just kind of came up and passed me like pretty handily. And at times in my career, that's one fault that I would give myself. Like, once I kind of lost the lead, it was one of them. Well, second may as well have been eighth, and I would almost throw away because you were just so mad that you lost the lead. And I kind of snuck in behind Justin and watched what he was doing in the center of the turn, and I was kind of like, maybe there is a couple other things I can do here before I just write this one off as a loss. And then I was able to get back by him on a restart, and he's really good driver there at the Rumble. He's won a lot of races, and to be able to get back by him and kind of like re-fight for that lead, I was happy with the way I handled that situation, because there's a lot of times, especially at the Rumble, it's like another year that we narrowly missed a win, and to get back by him was good. And then Tony Stewart kind of came up and spoiled the party with a few laps to go. But, I'm a realistic person. He's very good in there. Tony's got one of them cars that if he's having a good night, it's going to be really hard to beat him. But, I kind of had my own set of things, that I wanted to work on in that car and in that specific race, and to kind of battle back. Like, that was a good memory for me, and, something I'll kind of like look at where I felt like from, maybe my first year, 05, but definitely a couple years after that, to the last time I ran the Rumble, I felt like there was definitely some growth in that respect, and I like that. I like looking back on that.
So if you were back in the seat, you said the leader, you're pretty much a sitting duck.
Yep.
Coming to the white, do you want to be in the lead, or do you want to be in second, setting them up?
I mean, I think you still always would choose to be in the lead, definitely late in the run, just because you're going to have to, we've all done something that either didn't quite work or made contact or had to make a questionable move for a win. And if you're in second, you're going to be the one that has to try to make that move to win. And if you're in the lead, you're taking that burden or responsibility and putting it on somebody else, even though even though they might have a preferred vantage point, like they can see you heading into one and skating up the track a little bit, you're still putting them in a position to do something that's a little bit borderline, where when you're in the lead, you're more in protection mode. So I still think you choose the lead, but especially at the Rumble, there's a lot of traffic, and should you force the issue on lap traffic? Should you wait another lap? You don't really have that luxury of knowing how close someone is, and you are out there on an island a little bit. Like, do I run as hard as I possibly can to clear this traffic, or can I give it a lap? And being out there in the lead is just a constant state of wondering where the guy's at, and the guy behind you is just kind of like, essentially.
So you're in your comfort zone, they're in their comfort zone. Now they have to decide, the pressure's on them. Should they edge a little bit out of that comfort zone and then go on you?
Right.
Well, Kyle, indoor concrete racing is intimidating, and you hear so many of the younger drivers and teams say, oh no, I'm not going there, it's just too rough, it tears cars up. Do you have any input on that or any advice?
Yeah, the main thing, I do hear that a lot. I mean, and we were one of those teams that we're always like, we can't take that car to the Rumble because it's it's kind of rough and tumble, you're going to bang wheels and stuff. But on the other hand, the years we've ran the best, if you're looking at it from a purse standpoint, the year we've brought home the most money to buy tires is really years when we've brought a car that we would have easily just assumed ran outside somewhere, or that we would have taken to, Raceway Park, or, like a track that people consider more of a, not as rough outdoor track. The years we've just kind of went in with a really baseline car that, you had it set up specifically for the Rumble, but there wasn't anything out of the ordinary on that car that you really had to do that couldn't apply to another series that you ran in. And I think that's kind of a misconception that, we got to build a whole nother indoor car and we got to have this type of motor. Yes, Tony Stewart's car specifically runs indoors, but he's been beat. Guys have won. Guys have ran really well with cars that are not indoor specific. They've got some modifications that can easily be undone with the turn of a couple screws, couple things removed, but I think it is a bit of a misconception that you have to come in and reinvent the wheel to run that race. And
how many cars have really been destroyed up there? Yeah,
and I mean, not to put the speeds lightly, but you can only get going so fast on that small of a track. Yeah, you're gonna bang wheels. Yeah, you're gonna get some some scrapes on your bodywork, but ultimately you can tear up a car outside pretty easily too. I mean, ask some guys that have just been running for a win and wrecked at a higher speed, you end up tearing up more. I mean, tore a lot of front axles out of a car, but a lot of guys that build front axles every day for a pretty good price.
Probably the most intimidating would be the tires in the infield.
Yeah, those things can. I mean,
they bite.
I can't tell you how many tire rods I've snapped off and had to be the one in the pits thrashing to change them because I knew I just messed up and got into that infield tire.
So you obviously have a pretty decorated asphalt career, but I think it's cool that, especially the midgets, we just get drivers from all different backgrounds, dirt sprint cars, asphalt midgets, dirt midgets, everything. Do you think there's any certain background that has like an edge?
I mean, I'm a bit biased just because, I've always really only run on the pavement, very limited dirt experience, but it is a weird track surface, but it's most related to pavement. So I think guys that have ran pavement tend to run a little better there. But we've seen a lot of dirt sprint car guys come in and win. And
look at Justin.
Yeah, and honestly, I was going to use him just because as of recently, he's been kind of like one of the top guys to beat. But he has run on pavement, but really good drivers tend to figure out the Rumble. It's a totally different animal for everybody. Like if you run a dirt sprint car, dirt midget, and then you go try to run the Rumble, you're going to be like, man, this is weird. If you run pavement, sprint car, Silver Crown, come indoor, you're going to say it feels weird. It's a bit of a one of them, everybody's racing the same track type situations. It's a little bit different for everybody, especially when you can't tell exactly what the track's going to do throughout the weekend. Sometimes it's super tacky, sometimes it's not. And it's the same for everybody, and it's really not anything that most guys have experienced throughout the year. So I think that's part of what makes it a pretty good race, and part of why you see guys that you might not expect to mess up, they mess up, and then some underdog stories all of a sudden come from nowhere and win, because it's truly a situation where the track technically gets rebuilt once every year, and then it gets torn back down and gets rebuilt. And it's new for everybody when they take their first hot laps. It's similar each year, but there's little intricacies that change each year. I think that's what makes it competitive.
And I think that the most repeated comment we have is what you said, the track surface changes.
Yeah.
And then we talked about those dreaded infield tires. They get moved around. So not only does the track surface change, but the track diameter and geometry changes.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why you see a lot of, like, I know for, as of recent, when I ran for Don and Milwaukee, my brother has too, we always did a lot better on the second day of the event, because our car ran a lot better when it was less tacky. But then you'd see, another car just be out there unstoppable on night one, and you kind of get a little bit discouraged, like this might not be our year. But with the track changing like that, it kind of has you chasing it at all times, and you kind of got to let things come to you.
So with Kyle Hamilton removed going into this next Rumble, who do you have your eye on? Who do you think's gonna just go in there and dominate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be like head over heels trying to help my brother get another win. I have a teaching degree. I don't teach currently, but I like working with drivers. I like kind of the coaching aspect of things like that. And my brother and I, we've raced together, teammates, not teammates, same night, but we've raced on the same track a lot, but we haven't got to sit down a lot and work with each other on strategies, set up calls, hey, if we're in this situation, what should we do? And this past summer, when I stepped out of the car, I was able to work with him a lot more than I have. And, I think he kind of deserves that, because he did spend a lot of time kind of, basically playing second fiddle. If I had a better ride, he would take whatever ride he could get to be racing, but he'd kind of just take any information I could give him, but it'd be kind of in between me trying to race and me trying not to give out maybe a secret that would help him win. And so this year I'm looking forward to going in there and kind of like, really dialing in with him and, teaching him what I know, working, he's won that event himself, but, I'm looking forward to going in there and helping him out and, probably hanging out with the Kenyon team. So.
Well, you talked about coaching, and just in the most recent few years, you hooked up with probably two of the best coaches there are, true pioneers in midget racing, yes. Don and Mel Kenyon. And you guys just, I know we talked, Nick hosted one of our shows up at the Kenyon shop, and both of the brothers were just so complimentary of the Hamilton brothers, and they said it was just like a natural mesh.
Yep. Yeah, and I have a ton of respect for those guys. I mean, my favorite driver when I started going to the Rumble when I was a kid, I would be rooting on Mel. I mean, he was one of my favorite drivers. And then as I got older and started running the Kenyon series, got a real close relationship with Don. And just really good guys to work with, business-like. If you got something you need on the car, they're going to try to make it happen. And what I like about them is they have a lot of experience over the years, and one of the biggest pieces of knowledge that they've taken is try not to beat yourself. They bring us a car every year that you're already halfway in the ball with. You're not coming in there fighting something that's just a total X factor, like the car just won't run like this, or it just absolutely will not turn in the center corner. They always get us in there with something that we can go to work with right away. And it's consistent getting off the corner. You might not be the best off the corner. There might be some things you need to tweak, but it gets off the corner the same way every time. That's really all you can ask as a driver, is that when you get in the car, it's not doing stuff that makes you uncomfortable, because as soon as you're uncomfortable, you start driving with less intensity because you don't know exactly what's going to happen. You don't want to hit the wall. You don't want to tear something up. So what do? You lessen the intensity level. They always give me a car where I feel like, I can lay it on the edge at about any time. We might not be the fastest. We might be running 10th quick in qualifying, but I feel like I could go at my 100% and then tell them what I can do to make my 100% go from 10th quick to first quick or whatever it needs.
So, well, again, we're here with Kyle Hamilton. We're at Indy Screen Print tonight, kind of subbing in for our Fatheads Eyewear studio. We want to give a big shout out to Fatheads Eyewear for sponsoring the Rumble Mumble, and of course to Jason Dietz Trailer Sales for presenting sponsorship of the Rumble in Fort Wayne, coming to the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne Friday and Saturday, December 17th and 18th.
So Kyle, it's been 3 months since your tweet came out, and I just kind of want to know how Kyle Hamilton is today. You closed your tweet out with, "I have a beautiful wife, twin boys, and a career path that demand a lot more of my time than in my earlier years, and I'm not shy in admitting that these factors most likely played a role in my diminishing passion to lay it all on the line each and every race." So how's retired life? How's dad life?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I got twin boys. They keep us really busy. Really involved with their family business more than I ever have been. And like I mentioned in the tweet, I mean, as you get older, not even older, but as time goes on, your like things you place as like the highest importance in your life change. And when you're an 18-year-old kid that just graduated high school, all you really got to worry about is, a couple of classes and maybe a cross-country meet or something. You go out, you approach things different, and I approach things different, for a long time, and laying it all on the line in the race car. And then there becomes a point, like I said, where, I got a job now where, I feel like, it demands more of my time to where I can't give 100% to racing, and I'm not willing to not give 100% to racing. I've got kids at home now that make me look at pretty much the whole world different, but racing specifically, and I'm okay with that. I enjoy the time. It's not like I did it because out of like, man, I got just too much going on in life. This sucks. I gotta stop. I mean, I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with the decision, and things have been going great. I mean, boys are keeping me super busy. I'll probably get them into racing. I would have a hard time.
That was going to be one of my questions. Yeah.
I would have a hard time like not getting them involved in some capacity.
So Kyle Hamilton hasn't stepped away from racing.
No.
Kyle Hamilton has stepped away from the driver's seat.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. I grew up a huge fan of racing. We got way involved in it, more than anybody could ever imagine. As if you started out as a fan, you wouldn't expect yourself to be winning some of these big races and driving for some of the people that I drove for. But ultimately, I still want to be a fan, and then there was getting to a point where it was hard to be a fan of racing when it's kind of wearing you down. You've got these things kind of pulling you in different directions, and now I'm able to just enjoy the sport I love, be around it, be around the drivers, help my brother, do some things I like, and I, if the boys ever want to get involved in racing, I mean, there's no way I could tell them no, just because I know the memories that I made, the people that I met are people I put very high in my life, and it would be hard.
Are they at the point where you can sit down with them and watch videos of you racing and stuff like that?
We have a little bit. We love watching USAC racing throughout the year. I mean, at first it was kind of a coping mechanism for me when they were really young. I mean, they were just keeping you up at all times. You were kind of locked down with one of them in your arms, and luckily with the streaming platforms that are available now, I mean, we're watching every race live from my couch, and at first it was kind of a coping mechanism, but now I'm always like, hey, we're watching sprint cars tonight, guys, and I'm sure they'll be around it. I mean, you take them to a couple races and they're going to start asking if they can drive.
So we'll be expecting a couple quarter midgets at the Rumble with the Hamilton visor plate there pretty soon.
Oh yeah, I mean, if they want to go that route, like I said, I'm not going to push it, obviously, but if they want to be involved, I'd be more than happy to kind of show them the ropes.
How does Mama Hamilton feel about that?
Probably not the same. she's probably thinking about it more from a budget perspective, kind of like, hold on, how much sense does this make? And I'm thinking from a more of a passion perspective. But yeah, she if it came down to it, I know she'd be okay. She knew how much it meant to me before we met, and then obviously we dated for a long time, and she was able to go to a lot of races. She knows how much it meant to me. So if one of the boys wanted to do it, I'm sure she'd be.
Well, Kyle, we appreciate you taking the time talking to us, and I'm glad to hear that you're going to be at the Rumble in a little different capacity.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, going back to one thing I wanted to bring up, and it was back when we were talking about the Rumble. We went over to the shop last year and talked with you, and one thing that you brought up that I found very interesting about the importance of the Rumble, and you mentioned how it was a great off-season way to keep your reflexes up.
Yes.
And it was so neat to see you go from a 2016 Rumble win to a 2017 Little 500 victory.
Yeah, that stretch there, you know, about really like 2 solid years was like everything kind of springboarded off of each other, and there's a lot to be said about momentum. I mean, I love watching sports, specifically basketball, and you can just tell when a big win happens, it kind of breeds big wins, or a teammate hits a 3-pointer, it breeds more, you know, 3-pointers, and it's the same way in racing. And, you know, I kind of, you know, finally got that monkey off my back of winning the Rumble, and it's kind of like, okay, you know, we weren't really expected to win necessarily that year. I wouldn't think, you know, from my perspective, I know it was a little bit of a long shot in my head. I was really just going in there to build that relationship with Don and Mel, and to get a win right off the bat was kind of like, you know, okay, we just took a car that, you know, a very solid car, a very like smooth car that, but you know, needed some tweaking. And we just went out and won with it in the first year, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, you kind of got that chip on your shoulder now. Like, if I won that, like, let's go win some more. And like I said, it is a long gap if you stay fairly local to the Midwest between the last race you run in the fall to spring, and the Rumble's a good way to your reflexes and just your mindset. You know, like to be a top level racer, you kind of have to have that, you know, killer instinct of being able to just lay down consistent hard laps, and you do long enough of a gap, it kind of takes you a while, and having that really intense race right in the middle of the winter is kind of a good way to kind of bridge that gap into the spring.
Well, so racers, you heard that. You're going to have your chance to get those reflexes tuned up, and that's coming up Friday and Saturday, December 17th and 18th, 23rd Rumble in Fort Wayne, presented by Jason Dietz Trailer Sales. Allen County War Memorial Coliseum, right on the north side of Fort Wayne.
Yeah, and like Larry said, we have some very special announcements coming up, some cool things in the works, so stay glued to our socials, our website, rumbleinfortwayne.com, and we'll see you this December.